What if you could sit down with dozens of people in their 80s and ask them this one question? What's your biggest retirement regret? Well, we've essentially done that. Over the past 17 years, we've worked with hundreds of retirees, and we got to see firsthand the things that work and then what doesn't work. And here's what shocked me: their biggest regrets weren't the things that I would have guessed and what most people don't guess. Only a few of them were about money. More of them were about strategy than I would have thought. A lot of the regrets were deeper, more personal, and really also completely avoidable if you know what to look for. And the thing also that was surprising was that these mistakes were made from decisions that they made in their 60s and early 70s. So decisions that seemed smart at the time, but they turned out to be the opposite. Now, if I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller from Streamline Financial. And today we're going to share the most common regrets that we've heard from our clients. And more importantly, how you can avoid making these same mistakes. This first one is one that we've seen quite a few times. And it's about a couple who retires and they sell their Illinois house and then they move to their childhood town where they grew up. They both grew up there and they both loved it when they were kids. And it seemed perfect on paper. But 6 months later, they realized that this town and the feeling and the people in it weren't the same. It wasn't how they remembered it, and it didn't feel like home. So they ended up testing other locations and renting for a few months in different states, places where they wanted to see if this could be the place they wanted to move. And then after a few of these tests, they found the perfect location, better than where they were currently. And they ended up selling their home in their childhood hometown, and then they moved and they rented for one more year in this new location just to be certain and make sure they establish some roots and find the perfect place. And the regret was she regretted buying right away. They wished they had rented in that hometown because it could have saved them some time, and it could have saved them about $80,000 that they missed out on. So the lesson from our clients is think about testing a new location through renting before buying if you're going to move in retirement. The next one surprised me earlier in my career, but now it's become more of the norm. I've got a client in his 80s now, and he's sitting on a few million. And he told me that he regretted being too conservative with spending earlier on because they had the money, but he was just more afraid of running out. And he kind of was a saver his whole life. And in retirement, even though they had the means to do it, he couldn't break that habit of not spending. You know, his wife wanted to travel internationally. He didn't really want to, and he thought it was too expensive. And then before you know it, years passed. Time continues to get faster and faster, it seems. And then neither of them had the energy to do extensive travel or to do international travel. They can afford a bunch of vacations, but now they just don't have the mobility or the desire anymore. They saved all this money for their future, but they forgot that their future and their abilities kind of has an expiration date, even though they're still alive. So the wisdom is your 60s and early 70s are the go-go years. Don't save them away. The next one is talking to a retiree who thought that he was brilliant about taxes during his working years because he would minimize every tax bill and maximize every deduction. He had a business, and he was proud about how little he paid each year. But then when he turned early 70s, he was forced to take out his required minimum distribution from his IRA's 401ks. And that really surprised him more than he thought, because suddenly he was in the highest tax bracket that he'd maybe not ever been in, but it was pretty close to. And he stayed there for the rest of his life because of RMDs. And he had told me that he wished he paid a little bit more attention to the tax planning strategies and some of the Roth conversion strategies in his 60s and even early 70s. He thinks he could have saved a lot of money when thinking about the long term of taxes. So the wisdom from this person, who's not a client, is tax planning isn't just about this year. It's really about planning taxes over your lifetime. And a good financial planner can help you with that. The next one comes from a retired engineer who was successful in his career and figured out he could handle retirement planning and strategy all by himself, because how hard could it be? He actually enjoyed the research and figuring out all these things and strategies. So in his first year of retirement, he knew what he was supposed to do because He learned all the strategies for retirement, but when it came to implement, he just couldn't pull the trigger, is what he told us. And he doubted himself and he just wondered, is this really the best thing to do? He said, I feel like the decisions hold more weight now in retirement. So his advice to others was simple. When you're working, you can recover from investment mistakes. You've got time and you've got ongoing income to fix some of these things. But in retirement, you don't have that luxury anymore. And it feels like the stakes are higher, and they kind of are. And the margin for error is smaller.